Hi guys, this is Alexander from Nikhil Therapy. This video is about the VMI test. The VMI, Biotechnica test, is a developmental test that tests for visual motor integration and visual perception. Okay, so this is a copy of the actual test. This test can be used from ages from 2 years old through 100 years old. Okay, there is another version which is this one, which is from 2 to 7. This is the short version. Okay, usually depending on the child, we're going to use this test every 6 months to test how the child is doing in visual motor integration. The beer test is divided in three parts. This is the beer BMI, which is this part. Just to give you an example. This is where I record and I score some of the information. This is a table of ages in months and the things that the child should be doing by a specific age. So you can see, for example, here it says 0.3 equals 0 years and 3 months, so 3 months. So let's say, for example, the child is 4 years and 11 months, so the child is supposed to be connecting a series of dots spaced ½ inch apart to make simple drawings, such as lines, circles, and squares. So this page right here is very important. It's very interesting because it can give you a lot of information about what the child is supposed to be doing by a specific age range. So if the child is 1 year old, the child is supposed to be helping to pull off simple clothing and stretch arms and legs to help with dressing. Child should be doing this when the child is 1 year old. So this is a very good approximation of the level of skills that our children are supposed to be having at that specific age range. Okay, so just to give you an idea, for example, this is the part where I ask the child to write something here. So if the child, for example, goes like this, the child goes and I ask him to make a circle, and the child goes like this. Let's see, sorry. Oh, sorry. Maybe not. Maybe it's a problem. So the maybe, I'm going to explain why. It's because, for example, when I ask the child to do a circle and the child goes like this, the child is not is not acknowledging that there is a square and a space to work. So this is the space to work right here, these lines. Okay, that's just an example. So if I ask the child to do a triangle, to draw a triangle, and they go like this, even though it's close enough, they could not stay within the limits of the square. Okay, that's one of the things that we test with this kind of test. Okay, sometimes I ask the child to imitate what I do. So in this case, the word here, the keyword is imitation, and I ask the child to draw a line like this. So if the child goes and all of a sudden does something like this, then I know he has difficulty, copying an object or copying inside the specific space or dimensions. Sometimes they will go and they will do something like this, something too small, or something like this big. So depending on what the level of skill, they're going to perform different. That's the kind of thing that I look for when I'm testing the child, when an OT therapist is testing the child using this test assessment. Okay, this is the BMI part. I'm going to move forward because we only have a few minutes for this video. Same thing here. They actually give me what am I supposed to be testing. So the child in this case has to draw a line. Here another line, horizontal, vertical, and then a circle. And then, for example, a normal developing child will do something like this. It's very similar. Okay, that'll be a very good response. Okay, so now we continue. There are more examples, same thing. So they're going to become more difficult as we go. See, more complex, more difficult, more detailed. Okay, now we finish here on 21 because we're testing for 2 to 7. If we use the long version, we go longer. Let me show you. See, now we have different, more complex shapes and figures that we need to accomplish. All right, so let's keep doing it. Now we have the visual perception part. Like I mentioned before, this test is divided in three parts: the VMI, the visual perception, and the motor coordination part, which is the last one. Okay, so in the visual perception part, what we're gonna test is the ability of the child to make sure that they pick the correct picture, that they can retain or they can use their working memory to know exactly which shape is the same one as the one that I'm showing them. So in this case, the shape that is the same one as this one, let me just use the pencil here. Okay, the same picture of this one will be this one. In this case, it will be this one. In this case, it will be this one. In this case, it will be this one, and so forth, so on. So same thing here, here. If I'm going to move forward to this exercise here, then the child is going to become more complex. The test is going to become more complex. So here's this one, this one, this one is the correct one. And in this case, this is wrong. So I have to, in this case, I'm going to delete it just because, but that's, see, the complexity is going to increase. Here, we're going to become more complex. And this is where most of the children, they make a lot of mistakes because it's hard. This actually is very hard. But this is going to help us understand how the visual perception is at the point of during the reevaluation or evaluation. Okay, so now we have the motor coordination part. That's the last part of the test, of the VMI test. So the motor coordination is, like I said, is motor coordination, simple. So in this example, we need to connect dots. So what I'm testing here is the ability of the child to connect the dot and to stay within the boundaries, okay, and to try to draw the picture or the figure that is in front of them. So in this case, we're talking about this figure. So here will be a line. So let's say the child is not performing that well. A couple of examples of the child that is not performing great, something like this, or they just go like this, or they may go like this, not even touching the dots, because the whole idea of this is to be able to do this, the connection of the dots. Okay. Sometimes they have difficulties. Usually, for example, see, we have again, like in the other parts of the test, the difficulty is going to increase. Usually we get to a point in number 17, 18, 20, 19, 20, they become a little bit different in the sense that it's more complex. For example, this one, what the kids usually do is something like this, and they're not within the boundaries. And this one is quite complex. Maybe they do this one and they do this one, and that's it. They make mistakes. In here, sometimes they do something like this, which is wrong. What they need to do is something like this. So one of the things that you guys can do, oh, and 22, they don't even have the dots, but we have the shape here. So we can go, okay, we can go like this. So see, this shape and the shape on top, they're fairly same, okay? So keep in mind when you do this test, in visual perception, visual motor integration. We need to integrate our eyes with the arms to be able to create written work and to be able to negotiate different environmental obstacles, hazards, things like that, okay? Keep in mind that during therapy, what you can do, you don't need to use this test, but you can use a piece of paper and simulate many of these exercises. I can just go on a piece of paper, just pretend this is a piece of paper, and I can ask the child, okay, I need you to connect several dots. So the child will connect several dots. Or you can ask the child to, inside a specific box, to paint or to draw on a square. Draw on a square. And if you ask the child to draw on a square and the child is doing like this, so you know that child has a difficulty with visual perception. Okay, so that's the kind of exercise. So whatever you see here, you can simulate using a piece of paper. You don't need to use the test itself. The test is actually only for testing purposes to see where the child is, at what level the child is performing at a specific point of time. Okay, so again, this is the very BMI